He's already fast in real life, but simulator racing is turning Max Verstappen into something even more dangerous, and most fans still treat it like a hobby. Not training, not strategy, not an advantage. Just a fun thing Max does at home. And that's exactly why his rivals should be nervous. Because what's happening behind the scenes is bigger than late-night sessions and highlight clips. It's a quiet performance weapon that's sharpening the one thing you can't copy overnight in Formula One: decision-making speed under pressure. Because here's the uncomfortable truth. Formula One drivers don't get unlimited practice anymore. They don't get endless laps to feel it out. Testing is limited, practice sessions are tight, and modern cars are so complex that the learning curve is brutal. So if one driver is spending thousands of extra hours building muscle memory, racecraft and reaction patterns in a hyper-competitive environment, while another driver is spending that time doing sponsor events and recovery sessions, guess who shows up sharper when the lights go out? And before someone jumps in with the classic argument, simulator racing isn't real racing, sure, it's not identical. But it's close enough to train the brain in ways that matter. The biggest gains aren't about G-forces. They're about vision, timing, and repeatable precision. It's about training your inputs until they become automatic. And when you're Max Verstappen, automatic is terrifying because his baseline is already elite. Simulator racing isn't making him good. It's making him faster at being good. Now watch the key detail that gives this story teeth. Verstappen isn't casually playing. He's obsessive about it. His simulator setup is custom, heavily personalized, and he openly talks about how he's constantly upgrading it as new equipment comes out. That's not the behavior of someone using a toy. That's the behavior of someone investing in a performance environment. He even joked about designing his future home around a simulator rig concept because of how much time he spends in it. Think about what that implies. Most drivers build their lives around training, recovery, and PR. Max is basically saying, my training is so serious I might build the house around it. Here's what nobody is talking about. In simulator racing, Verstappen is constantly exposed to situations that Formula One barely gives you anymore. Random traffic, different car categories, weird strategies, sudden weather changes, endless racing starts. And you don't get to reset, you adapt, or you get humbled in real time. That's mental resistance training. And it creates a driver who doesn't panic when things go weird at 300 kilometers per hour. Because his brain has already solved the puzzle 1,000 different ways the night before. And if you love this kind of story, the stuff behind the press smiles, the power shifts nobody wants to say out loud, you're already subscribed. Because casual fans watch liveries, the smart ones watch body language, wording and timing. And Verstappen's timing here is perfect. Because Red Bull are walking into 2026 with two wars happening at once, winning races while building an engine program that has to survive pressure from Mercedes, Ferrari, and everyone else who already knows how to play this game. Now let's get to the part that should actually worry the grid. Simulator racing doesn't just improve lap time. It improves something more valuable, the speed of correction. The moment the car moves, Max is already fixing it. The moment the rear shifts, he's already caught it. The moment the tyre starts fading, his inputs are already adapting. That's not magic, that's repetition. And Verstappen is repeating race conditions more than anyone else. Which leads to an even more dangerous implication. If the next era of Formula One becomes unpredictable, if 2026 truly becomes the unknown era with new engines, new car dimensions, and teams missing the concept early, the driver who adapts the fastest becomes the most valuable asset on the grid. And Max Verstappen might be the most adaptation-trained driver we've ever seen, because his training never fully stops. Not when he leaves the track, not when the weekend ends, not when the calendar goes quiet. Here comes the pattern interrupt. What if the reason Verstappen looks so calm under chaos isn't just talent, it's that chaos feels familiar to him now? What if he's living inside competitive chaos almost every day, while other drivers only experience it on race weekends? That's why this simulator racing thing matters. And it gets even more interesting when you consider the psychological advantage. In Formula One, your confidence is part of your speed. If you hesitate, you lose. If you doubt the car, you lose. If you second-guess a move, it's gone. Simulator racing gives Verstappen something priceless: constant confidence reinforcement through constant competition. It keeps his senses sharp, it keeps his instincts active, and it keeps his decision-making ruthless. While others reset between races, Max stays warm. Now imagine what that does over a full season. Imagine the tiny gains stacking up. better start reactions. Cleaner overtakes. Faster responses in dirty air. Quicker adaptation to changing grip. And no, you can't isolate all of that to simulator racing. But you also can't ignore it when Max is known for being one of the cleanest, most decisive drivers in pressure situations. The evidence isn't a single moment. It's the consistency of his execution. And here's where the rivals should panic, because they can't copy this quickly. They can buy the rig, they can install the best pedals, but they can't instantly replicate the obsessive relationship Verstappen has with competition itself. The guy races because he enjoys the fight, not because he needs validation. That's why he'll do it for free at midnight, on a random day when nobody is watching. That's not branding. That's personality. Midway reality check. Verstappen himself has said the most important things in a simulator setup, if you want to be truly competitive, are the brake pedal and the wheelbase, aside from a good computer. That's such a Verstappen detail, because it reveals how he thinks. He's not focused on flashy visuals. He's focused on control, precision, feel, repeatable braking. That's exactly where real lap time lives in Formula 1 too. And when your brain is training that same precision constantly, you become the kind of driver who finds time in places other drivers can't even see. Now, if you're still here, you're not a casual fan. You're the kind of person who enjoys this deeper level of analysis, the stuff that makes a driver's dominance feel inevitable instead of lucky. So yeah, you're part of the real F1 audience, and you're exactly why this channel exists. So let's make this debate real, because I want your honest answer. Is simulator racing actually giving Verstappen a meaningful advantage, or is it just a fun side quest that fans overhype because Max is already Max? Pick a side, and don't sit on the fence, because fence sitting is how you miss what's coming next. Here's my take, and you're allowed to disagree with it aggressively. Simulator racing is going to matter more than ever in the next era. Because 2026 is bringing unknown cars, unknown engines, unknown balance, and probably at least a few teams who get it wrong early. In that environment, the driver who can adapt fastest becomes the difference between surviving and dominating. And Verstappen is building a brain that's trained for adaptation like it's a sport inside the sport. Now let's deliver the payoff. The real reason simulator racing gives Max an edge isn't because it makes him faster on a perfect lap. It's because it makes him faster in the mess, in the compromise. In the weird moments where the car isn't doing what you want, the tyres are fading, the track is evolving, and you have to make the right decision immediately. That's where races are won. And that's exactly where simulator racing trains you hardest, because it throws you into hundreds of scenarios without warning. And if this sounds dramatic, it should, because it changes the way we talk about driver skill. There's even research that suggests constructors explain a huge chunk of variance in results, meaning the car matters massively, but in tight eras, the driver still becomes the separator when systems are close. If the grid compresses, if regulation changes reduce predictability, if teams trade advantages back and forth, then Verstappen's ability to execute under uncertainty becomes priceless, and he's literally training uncertainty as a lifestyle. So don't look at simulator racing as a hobby anymore. Look at it like a private laboratory, a personal training engine, a high-frequency decision gym. The same way fighters shadowbox when cameras aren't rolling. The same way elite shooters train muscle memory. Max Verstappen is doing the digital version of that, every time the grid is asleep. And this is the final twist. The sport might be heading toward a future where the next breakthrough talent isn't found in karting alone. It's found in who can adapt, learn, and compete at insane volume before they even touch an F1 car. Verstappen has been quietly proving that the line between simulator and real is thinner than people want to admit. Not because the physics are identical, but because the skills transfer in the most important places, the brain. If you want the next piece of this puzzle, the perfect follow-up is the story where Verstappen admits Red Bull's 2026 car is unknown. Because if the car really is a mystery, then the driver with the strongest adaptation training becomes the most dangerous man on the grid. And once you connect those two stories together, you stop seeing Verstappen as just a champion. You start seeing him as a weapon designed for the chaos that's coming.